Good evening, Moody Gooners. Welcome to the latest episode of the Moody Gooners podcast. Joined as ever with Jason. How are you, sir?
Very happy. We're going to win the league.
Are we? Okay. Well, you heard it here first, everyone.
I don't know.
We're literally recording everyone today a matter of an hour or so after the end of the fantastically but quite dull 1-0 victory against Man City. It's been a long time in the making. 2015 since we've defeated them in the league, and today was just that kind of relief that we've kind of got over the line. So today we're going to dissect all of that good stuff, and then sort of look ahead to the international break. Time to take a bit of a deep breath, maybe review where we are at this point in the season. Before we kind of get back to it towards the end of the month. But better housekeeping, as we usually do. So this podcast is an Arsenal podcast with a difference. That difference being our sort of ability to fuse the love of all things Arsenal with mental health. So each week we do a prediction, and all the predictions we get wrong. And spoiler alert, there's plenty of those. At the end of the season, we donate that money that we've got there in the kitty towards a mental health charity of our choice. So without further ado, let's get into it. The game's fresh in our memory. The vibes are good. The energy's high. So let's jump in. So what did we think about the game? Firstly, I guess, how was your sort of feeling coming into the game? Because obviously it's one of those sort of teams. We talk about bogey teams like Everton and things like that, but this really is a bogey team. I mean, it's actually been quite embarrassing, I think, just watching us turn up against City in years gone by and just rolling over and having our tummy tickled. Even when we've arrived there in form, arrived there when we've been top of the league in some instances, and we've just never really we've mentally always just looked like a team that's just prepared to almost write off those 6 points at the start of the season. But what were your sort of feelings coming into the game before we jump into the teams?
Yeah, I mean, I was properly nervous, like really apprehensive. I mean, I don't normally get like this before games. I'm normally quite, a positive sort of guy, and I really sort of try and look for the good stuff and the outcome. But I was not feeling. I was hoping for the best, but expecting, really expecting the worst. To be truth be told, it's such a relief. I mean, we'll go into the game and stuff, but to get this monkey off our back is just, it's massive. It's a huge psychological weight off our shoulders now that we can kind of put that to bed now and go, yeah, we've done that. We got the Community Shield, obviously, earlier on in the season, but you can't read too much into that. But to have that, and then now to have this, and, the circumstances around it with the sort of players missing, on both sides as well. So, not to try and detract from what City were missing as well. It's huge. It's massive. And, the wider picture, I think, is great for football in general, that this has panned out the way it did. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm normally like really nervous, on edge one of the two of us for the most part. But for this game, I actually was hadn't really thought about it that much until probably about, an hour or so before kickoff, 2 hours before kickoff, purely because we've been so bad. In my mind, I was almost, and again, I hate myself for predicting a loss, but I almost did that to sort of almost reverse psychology. Put some reverse psychology on this result. Honestly, I genuinely did, because normally with these Man City games, I'm more sitting there as like a grumpy fan going, come on then, Arsenal, show me what try not to roll over and die today. Try and show a little bit of what you're about. And I don't think we really did that from an attacking perspective today, but we obviously were very well organised, very solid at the back. But I was in the lead up to the game, I was a bit more calm, because I've seen this story, 15 times or whatever it was, of 13 times. They said it was like the third longest streak of games when one team hasn't beaten another. I think something like Man United versus Wigan or something like that was one. And then we were like, this is like the third longest run. So you kind of think, well, it can't stay like this forever. But by the same token, I've kind of a little bit scarred from the Lens game, really, and thinking we were pretty crap in that match. And I was a bit we're not really firing going forward. Yes, they've got a few players out, but so have we. So I was kind of almost like going into the game was almost it was a bit of a free hit mentally for me. I would say I was going in just sort of wanting to see a different, a different story to the usual turn up and lose 3-1 kind of thing against them, which obviously we were really grateful that we got to that point. But what were your sort of thoughts looking at the teams? I mean, obviously the big news before was that Saka, despite being snapped in all the team gear, he didn't even make the bench. But then we had, Martinelli did make the bench. Kai Havertz out the starting lineup. I was quite happy, even though with Rodri out, you probably could say, well, do Arsenal really need a double midfield pivot? But it was nice to see Jorginho. I felt a bit more secure that we had, Saliba, Gabriel, and then you've got the two strong midfielders in front. I think Havertz may well have been eaten alive in a game like that. If he was in midfield. Although to be honest, Rico Lewis didn't really set the world alight. And I think the other thing was Raya continuing in goal. The team largely picked itself, really. I mean, obviously the Saka news, but then and Jorginho coming in. What were your sort of takes? So it was also interesting to see Guardiola play left back. I thought that was kind of that little curveball thing that Guardiola seems to do against us. And I think it kind of meant that Ben White wasn't really tested on that left hand side, really. On our right, Man City's left. So I thought that was kind of an interesting addition in there from a City perspective. But what was your take on the team news when it came through?
Well, I think this is probably one of the reasons I felt really nervous, is that I looked at our front three, and then I looked at their sort of attacking, and I just thought, Jesus, we're going to get pumped here. Because I just thought, okay, Nketiah hasn't really been firing at all and Jesus is very much stop-start with Jesus. He had that game against PSV and he was sublime. Well, the whole attacking, quartet, were just fabulous. And then he just sort of goes missing and he's a little bit inconsistent. And then obviously without Saka and Martinelli, you're thinking, oh, Jesus, Trossard, he's been given a couple of starts and maybe not quite up to speed. And I just looked at our front three and I just thought, have we got enough really to be troubling them? And I didn't think we did. And I did like the idea of trying to sort of shore up the midfield a bit more by putting Jorginho in instead of Havertz. And then having Rice as well as the extra sort of security. I thought, yeah, that's good. That means that Odegaard has a bit more license to roam and get on the ball. But I looked at the lineups and the comparison, and even City without Rodri and De Bruyne in the lineup, I looked at it and I just thought, I don't think any of our players really would get. There's hardly any of the front three would get into their sort of front three, even with their players missing. And I just thought, oh, this is just not going to go well. And so I was properly nervous and anxious about it. But, yeah, it's incredible to feel that we even with those situations that we've managed to sort of come through the other end of it.
Well, I mean, the game starts. I mean, we saw. First of all, the thing we didn't see was Zinchenko drifting straight into the midfield. Yeah. I noticed he played very much as a classic sort of left back, trying to go almost down the flanks a bit more than almost play like a left back in a back four as we used to know it. But what I found interesting is I was thinking maybe with Jorginho in there that Rice might be that all action up and down midfielder number 8 in this game. But I think the first half he was quite quiet. He seemed to play in the number 6 role, and we just seem to play with that double midfield pivot, as opposed to having an extra player that is going to, of the two, that was going to move forward. But we really nearly came a cropper right at the start of the game, didn't we? I mean, it was
Jesus, man. I mean,
wow,
what an awful. I mean, I can't. It's just such an awful start to the game. We immediately, and I do mean immediately, we sat off them and just went, right, okay, you have the ball. And it was just so much fear. You could almost see it in the players' faces. They were just scared. They were petrified of cocking things up. And we just gave City the ball, stood off them, and it was just an awful start. And David Raya. Oof. I mean, Jesus, we got away with one there. I mean, the guy for the first half, the whole half, he was just incredibly shaky and nervy, and oof, I mean, they had that early chance, like within the first few minutes, the first what 5-6 minutes or so, it was the corner, the Raya flapping away at it, and then it
Raya
comes,
was in no man's land, and
and then Rice
then
has
he
to
flaps
clear it
away.
on the line. And it's just, I mean, I just thought, oh, we're in for a long afternoon. If that's what we're going to set up like. It was just unbelievably crap start from us.
Yeah, and psychologically as well, like with that kind of all that history in this fixture of us being so bang average, basically, that this is not the kind of start that's going to get the fans calm. And you could almost hear in the ground the fans are actually starting to, their nerves were not kind of manifesting as kind of support for the team. I noticed the fans seemed quite quiet in this game, and when they were almost waiting for Arsenal to do something good, and then they would cheer, as opposed to just come all out, as fans, and just kind of support the team regardless of what they saw on the pitch. And it was really dodgy. I mean, Nathan Ake, with the second phase of that chance,
He should have buried.
The ball sort of, Haaland flicks it back to Ake, and he, I mean,
Backwards.
Saliba did really well. He kind of put himself in there physically, but I think if that was Haaland on the end of that, or a recognised attacking player, I mean, even as a defender, you'd expect Ake to at least get that on target, and it was a dreary start. It really was. It really was a dreary start, and I mean, the first half really was almost a tale of two players, wasn't it? It was a tale of David Raya and Mateo Kovacic, and I mean, we saw inside the first 10 minutes Jorginho already getting booked for pulling Foden back, which again, by the letter of the law, he stopped the counter attack. Those typically get given a no nonsense yellow card. I would have liked to have seen Michael Oliver just go, you know what, the players are still kind of adapting to the speed of the game, and bear in mind Jorginho has been a bit in and out of the squad, I would say, or in and out of the team of late. I mean, you could argue it two ways, say letter of the law, give him the yellow, but I almost wouldn't mind. We seem to have lost that thing in football that the first one comes for free. You almost get the first one's a freebie, and then the next one you're in the book. It was, and straight away, I think, great. One of our midfield pivots now is walking a tightrope. So,
I mean, was Foden away? I mean, I was so wrapped up in the emotion of it. I know that I saw the challenge, but was in the build-up play, if Jorginho hadn't done that, was Foden away? Was he like scot-free?
No, I mean, he wouldn't have had a clear run straight on Raya, but those seem to always be given yellow cards. Any kind of tug back to stop the counter attack always seems to get penalised with a yellow card. But Saliba was back there. Gabriel was hadn't vacated his position. But those are just kind of almost seen now as right. That's a yellow. And then obviously what we saw off the back of that, with Kovacic was absolutely appalling. I mean, it was honestly goes down with some of the worst decisions I've ever seen on the football pitch again.
I mean, let's get into it. I mean, there are two decisions here basically, which sort of we need to go over. First of all, the first one, which even went to VAR because they were checking, for, was it violent conduct? I think that was, serious foul play. They were looking at it, and Kovacic has gone through the back of Ødegaard after the ball has gone, and studs up on his ankle and followed through. I mean, there's no consistency, and I think this is the thing that VAR and refereeing decisions and significant human errors and all this sort of stuff are getting hyped up. But the problem at the end of the day is that there's just no consistency with any of these decisions. I mean, you rightly point out, the Jorginho yellow card within the first 10 minutes. If they're following the letter of the law, then it's a yellow card. If they're following the letter of the law here, then that's a red card. And then to compound matters even worse, like 5-6 minutes later, he then challenges, I think it was on
Rice.
Rice, that was it, yeah.
Well, yeah, the second one was on Rice.
And that is a yellow card. There's no questions asked. because again, it's a late challenge, again on the ankle. And it's just nothing, just a free kick. My mind boggles. You almost have to sort of start asking the question, how much is the referee being paid for this? You know, there is serious questions have to be asked here, because it's just, I mean, one of them was a red card. If that is a yellow card, then the other one's a yellow card, in which case the player should no longer be on the field. It's infuriating, and it's disgusting, quite honestly. I mean, it's awful officiating.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is that, you know, just that tackle on Odegaard, the first one, was so dangerous as well.
Yeah.
But it almost looks like he's gone in to try and do him. And the one with Rice, it's just a poor challenge. It's late. But, you know, Odegaard's right foot kind of gets locked into the turf. His ankle's turning outwards. And, you know, on another day, he could have broken his ankle. And you know, and those kind of, I think Arsenal fans are scarred as well from the Aaron Ramsey time with Ryan Shawcross and things like that. But there's no place in football for tackles like this. And then the referee straight away, as soon as the tackle on Rice happens, which, you know, wasn't quite as bad, but it was kind of in that same area, just that Rice's feet were off the ground. I don't think he was going to get permanently, you know, injured off the back of it. But the referee straight away, without a moment's, you know, questioning it, just kind of got his hands and went, no. And I'm just looking at it going, if that was Granit Xhaka, he would have been sent off twice today. You know, it was absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, can they upgrade it? Can it be upgraded later, or because VAR has looked at it, is that it now? I'm on about the Odegaard challenge now. Can they upgrade it at a later point?
I don't think they can. I think once it's gone to VAR, they can't, and the decision's been made, they can't do anything. I mean, my sort of understanding with VAR, certainly when it first was deployed, I think this is still the rule now, is that they will only check certain things. So they will check, you know, offsides, they will check for, you know, balls over the goal line, and they'll check for straight red cards. There's a bit of me that thinks on the second one, for example, they can't. VAR don't have the ability to check for a yellow card, because basically, in my view, if you're on a yellow card, VAR should be able to check for that second yellow card, because that's when it becomes a sending off kind of call to make. But I think VAR can only look at decisions when they're straight reds. I think that's the rule. That's what the rule has been. But in my opinion, he's already on a yellow. He's dived in absolutely recklessly again. He's off his feet, and because he's already got a yellow originally, that's when I think VAR should be able to go, well, Kovacic was on a yellow already. We're looking at it now, and I just can't believe it. I mean, I don't want to use the C word, i.e. corruption, but it's not a good look. I wonder, what does he have to do to get sent off? Take his AK-47 out and gun a few players down? Like, what does he have to do to get a red? I mean,
I mean, it's. My mind is, I'm a blank. I don't understand. You know, what the thing with VAR, and I think football can learn a lot of lessons from rugby in this regard, because the way that, you know, rugby conducts itself with video referees and stuff, I think they've got it spot on. It's perfect. It's crystal clear. Obviously, we had the big hoo-ha with Liverpool and their VAR controversy against Spurs, you know, last week. Why on earth you know, it's the biggest sport in the world. It's got the most amount of money thrown at it, this league. Why on earth? I mean, how can they cock it up so badly? You know, and then you look at something like rugby and the way that conducts itself. You know, all it needed was a little, you know, in Michael Oliver's ear. Hi, Michael. Yeah, we just need to bring your attention. Just stop the game for a second. Just check for serious foul play. Have a look at the video monitor and tell us what you think. You know, we advise a little bit of action. That's all it needs. Yeah. Why?
And in a way, actually, the guys that run the VAR, their role is actually not that important. All they have to, when you actually think about it, all they really have to ever do is just say, you know, insert a referee's name here. You just go over to the screen and you make the decision. Make it, you know, because
Highlight.
for me, at the very least, why is Michael Oliver not at least gone over to the VAR screen at least once in that first half? At least once. It should have been twice, but at least once. Rather than Oliver going, no, like I did like how he was very clear with his body language. Like, no, that's not a yellow. Fine. You're basically telling the world, right, I've seen it, and no, I don't think it is. Fine. That's your opinion. But you're right. All the guys in the Stockley Park have to do is just go, Michael, just go and have a look at it. And if you still want to say no, and you've had a chance to review it, then we can sit here and argue all we like. But at least the referee's gone, okay, I've had a look at it, and I still think that's blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Then, but I'm pretty sure if Oliver had gone over and actually seen any of this stuff, I mean, it'd be interesting to know what the blowback is in the week after this.
I expect us to get the you know, the now customary Howard Webb apology, you know, the human error, because again, you know, this is this is interpretation. You know, Michael Oliver has interpreted that. I mean, the second foul, he's interpreted it as just a foul. You know, that's his belief. You know, there is an actual foul going on there that can impact the rest of the game. That the rules have been broken. It should be a yellow card, you know, by the letter of the law. Therefore, they should be highlighting something like that to the referee, because it can have a significant impact on the rest of the game. Why that can't happen, and how they've managed to cock it up so much with VAR, in my mind is, it's unbelievable how they've got themselves in this mess. And I do think there will be a bit of a kickback from this, because you can't officiate a game like that. You know, Michael Oliver's meant to be one of the best referees that we've got available in this country, and yet again, it's down to interpretation. And I just don't think with these sort of decisions, it shouldn't be down to interpretation, especially when you've got the ability to be factual with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because it is one of those ones where offsides and balls over the goal line, they are black and white. They're either offside or they're not. Yeah. You know, that's why when Ten Hag was complaining about Garnacho the other week, I was like, mate, just drink your salty tears and sit down. You know, because at the end of the day, I thought, I was in the minority. I thought that was slightly offside in real time when I saw it. And then when I saw the lines on the pitch, it doesn't matter that the camera's a bit of a wonky angle, as long as the lines are calibrated to be straight across the pitch and we can see. And I'm fine with that. And the same as when the referees watch buzzes when the ball goes over the line, totally fine with that. So there is a kind of an element of this Kovacic stuff, which is still subjective, but he's, you know, the one with Curtis Jones last week against Tottenham, he was going for the ball, his foot hit the ball and rolled over the top of it and then caught the player. The ball wasn't even there. It wasn't even there. And
there's no consistency, is it? You know,
you can't honestly say that he was going for the ball. Like, he's gone in, studs up straight into his foot. I mean, it's just appalling to get a yellow. I mean, he should have a 3-match ban now for that first challenge, and for the second one, it was really reckless. It was just lucky that Rice was not, you know, Rice was never going to get badly injured off the second one, but it was still equally as reckless. I just think about Martin Odegaard with the first one and just think, my God, you've nearly broken the guy's foot or ankle or leg. Yeah, it's just, you can't have players on the pitch.
So here's the question. Do you think if he'd had gone off on a stretcher and more time had been allocated to that Michael Oliver would have then maybe upgraded it to a red card? You know, given the severity of the output. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so obviously the visuals of seeing him on a stretcher with a gas mask on or whatever.
Yeah.
Possibly.
But
they may have just seen it as like an unfortunate accident on a football pitch. You know, that's kind of where they're at the moment. I was thinking we were having quite a quiet weekend with VAR and the referees and stuff as well. I thought, everything's been quite good this weekend.
No, there's going to be every single week, because it's a flawed system. I mean, I you know, obviously a lot of talk about it recently, but why did all the Premier League clubs vote not to have the semi-automated system that they have in the Champions League? Because that just seems
arrogance.
It just seems so black and white. It's like it's offside. It's not offside.
I love that. It's like you look at cricket, for example. Cricket always uses the ball tracking and the Hawkeye, same as tennis, and we never question it. For some reason, when it's digitized like that, no one questions it, and we go, okay, fair enough. and we go on from there. But I mean, there is an element of subjectivity with these types of things, like we saw from Kovacic today. But for me, there's even the most, one-eyed, and there's a bit of me afterwards when it was happening and going, oh, it wasn't given. Maybe I'm just being a really, a blind Arsenal fan that can't only ever sees that. But no, I mean, for me, I don't see why those were not. Why the first one wasn't a straight red, and at the very least, when you're on a yellow, and you go and commit that one on right. So what are you thinking?
Yeah,
real liability stuff. I mean,
yeah, not much going on.
I mean, I don't know what there else is to say about it, to be honest, because nothing. I'm at this point now where I've sort of lost hope. I've lost hope. I always think like, okay, right, we've had this bad thing happen here. At least if a bad thing happens, they can learn from it and go right. But then we fast forward another week on, and then another incident happens, and another one, and another. But then we saw in the Champions League in the week the blatant handball in the lead up to Lence's equaliser, and it didn't even go to VAR, and the guys controlled it on his arm here, and I'm like, where it wasn't even. No, it was below the shoulder line on the top of his arm and his bicep. He controls the ball like that, and it doesn't even go to VAR. I'm looking at it going, so in a way, at least it's reassuring to see this stuff happens in UEFA competitions as well. But it was just, I don't know what else to say. I've got no confidence in things like this, being made better in the future. But at the very least, it didn't affect the result today from an Arsenal perspective. But that's the only good thing. But I just hope Odegaard's not. I think he's fine. He's a pretty robust guy. But he could have easily been out for a year with a ripped up ankle. Eduardo, Aaron Ramsey, Odegaard insert here. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Crazy stuff. But apart from that, I mean, the half was just extremely tetchy, not much penetration. Yeah. We had no efforts in the first half, and it was just a toothless performance in the first half. I just thought,
yeah.
I mean, the only thing that we did do well was sort of nullify the threat of Haaland. I thought was really sort of positive to come out of the first half, and I don't know how much of that was down to our. I mean, in the second half, it was down to our good defending, but in the first half, I don't know how much of it was down to our defending or the fact that City weren't at the races either. What were your thoughts there?
To be honest, I noticed Saliba in the first half. I remember sort of in the first half thinking, wow. And bear in mind, he's got a pretty jittery goalkeeper behind him, today's performance. And I think I remember thinking in the first half, wow, I can't even recall Haaland really getting, other than the chance that he set up Ake for at the start of the game, which was butchered. I never kind of thought to myself, oh God, he's really growing in influence in this game. And I think sometimes with the defender as well, that the defenders they're not always making last ditch lunging, sliding tackles. So they don't. I'm trying to get my words correct here. I think Saliba didn't kind of like stand out, but I think the fact that Haaland was so quiet is just testament to how good he was. Yeah. And like I say, he had all that nerves and that tension. I thought it was one of the best Arsenal performances of any player this season so far. And I just think, with all the nerves and the crowd getting a bit, there was no real kind of proactivity from the crowd to kind of make it intimidating for Man City and as an atmosphere to play. And there was definitely nervousness from the crowd the way Raya was playing behind, and the crowd was either nervous and howling with anxiety, or it was silent. There was no real sort of positive energy. And I know maybe I'm just being a bit, wishing for something that's not really that possible to happen, but I do kind of feel that if we come out as fans into the ground and really made it a really hostile atmosphere for City, I didn't feel like I felt like the Arsenal players and the fans were feeding off each other. We were nervous as fans in the ground. The players were playing a bit nervy. They looked like they had no belief out. It was a strange half. There was no point in that first half where they really grabbed the game and right, we're gonna, even if we are going to drop points in this game, we're going to show you who we are. Yeah. We're going to show our personality. We never really did that. I mean, I feel like, I mean, we've made quite a good fist of this first half discussion, but
I know. I want to talk about that
not much happened,
as well.
Yeah, I mean, what was your take? I mean, the one thing that was ringing through my head is that Arteta was saying before words along the lines of, I've had moments in games before where I've wanted to substitute one goalkeeper for another and I've not been able to do it. I don't know if you, that's paraphrasing a bit what he said, but I was thinking, fuck me, like
this is the game to do it.
If there's one game
yeah.
If you don't do it now, then basically that stuff you said before when we signed Raya was a lie, because if you're not going to substitute Raya at half time, then you're never going to do it, because that was as bad a first half performance as I've ever seen from a guy. And I'm a massive Raya fan. I really like the player, but that was a real, shocker. I mean, he let that one. I noticed the one where Alvarez pressed him and blocked the ball. It hit the side, netting.
That could have gone in. That could have easily gone in from the rebound against.
And I noticed Raya was basically, he motioned to almost say like, pass the ball quicker so it kind of comes across my body quicker to not give Alvarez the time to get close to me. Like, I do feel like the pass into Raya was slightly on the slow, undercooked side, but he did sort of dawdle on it, and he passed one straight out into midfield for a City player as well, and the crowd. But one thing I did notice, though, there was one ball he did out to Jesus in the first half, which was an absolute zinger, put us right on the front foot. And I noticed whenever he made a balls up, the camera would go straight onto Raya. And whenever he did a really nice pass, no one would say anything, and the game would just carry on playing.
Well, that's it.
He did do a couple of really nice balls out. Stuff. Yeah.
I mean, so I think this is a bit of a bigger question then. So, I mean, obviously we go into the international break now, but how do you think Raya's done? Because I'm on the fence. I don't think Ramsdale's career at Arsenal is closed by any stretch of the imagination, because I was expecting Raya. I think he's got away with a few, and I don't want to sound too harsh, but I think he's been a little bit lucky with some of the results and the clean sheets that he has got. I mean, today you look, okay, he's got the clean sheet, and the stats will say, well, he kept a clean sheet against City. But we know that he's not had a good game. He's gotten away with a few, and he had the cock up against. He was a little bit at fault for the goal at Lens as well. He's not. He hasn't set the world alight. He's not this significant improvement on Ramsdale. And I'm not so sure yet. I know it's early days. I get that. He's only played 6-7 games or, but it's not. He's not really filled me with great confidence that he is the standout goalkeeper between the two of them. I mean, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think, what did we have? What was his debut? I think we won, against Bournemouth, for example. In the previous Premier League game, he basically didn't have to do anything. Against Brentford in the first half. Ramsdale played in that and had quite a good game, I thought.
Yeah.
But the first two Raya games, we played against teams who offered little to no goal threat. So I noticed, yes, obviously you can get a clean sheet in those kind of games. And I would say, though, that I personally would sort of stick with him, because I think at the end of the day, he's dealing with an unnatural amount of noise around him in that position that you don't normally have to have, which is probably brought on him by Arteta, really. So I would I'd give him more time. I still would give him time. And I have to say, in the second half, he didn't really. I mean, I know it was not exactly a game full of goal chances, but in the second half, I noticed he grew into the game, got calmer. The only thing I didn't really like him doing, which is probably not on him, again, it's probably on Arteta, we were playing lots of long balls onto the right wing position, where you had Guardiola up against Jesus competing for headers, and then suddenly City win that every single time, and then they're back on the front foot. I didn't like that as a tactic from Arsenal. I think if you're going to go long, play it into a player so it's bouncing kind of more into his lower half, and maybe when he's in a bit of space, rather than just, Jesus is a very combative player, but he's not the tallest, and he's never going to win. He's never going to win. He's never going to win a header, against a physical specimen such as that. So I found that was a bit of a poor tactic. But no, I mean, I thought it was one of the worst performances I've seen from a goalkeeper in a long time. But the problem is then also the crowd were feeding off it, and you could hear whenever the ball was going back to him, the crowd were getting a bit spicy as well. And that's no, I mean, again, it's a tricky one because the crowd are just aren't playing on emotion; they're just reacting to what they're seeing, but it's not helping the player. Trust me, he wants the ground to swallow him up at that point. But I'm glad he at least. I mean, it's bizarre saying, "Oh, you know, you don't give him credit for a clean sheet when they've got Alvarez and Haaland and people like that on the pitch." But they really didn't offer. That was as toothless as a Man City performance as I've seen.
Yeah.
To be honest, and I think it was partly again how well we defended. Saliba for me, absolute man of the match for this game, but I do feel that he didn't have a lot to do. I mean, I thought he took his crosses quite well. Pretty comfortable with those, and but yeah, the playing out from the back was woeful, to be honest. There was one where he knocked the ball straight forward into the midfield, straight into a City player, and got them straight on the front foot. And he had a really bad sort of 10 or 15 minute spell where,
we were
again,
just waiting for the clash to happen.
Yeah, and I wanted to see almost Arteta be true to his word and go, oh, we're gonna substitute a goalkeeper, but you know, it never happened. He is the number one. We need to stop thinking, I guess, as a fan base about having, you know, two number ones and whoever's the right one tactically and blah blah blah. Like Ray is going to be the one playing now. I mean, Arteta can still at least point to the end of the game and go, well, I didn't change him at half time. We kept a clean sheet and we got the 3 points. I think he'll see it as black and white as that. I mean, were you almost waiting for him to make that goalkeeper change? Or?
Absolutely. Well, not make the change. I was waiting for him to cock up. I was waiting for Raya to cock up. Like it almost seemed like a shoo-in that he would really just balls up and, you know, like he would gift someone a goal. You know, I mean, he got lucky with the Alvarez one as well. I mean, that rebound from the close down, that could have gone anywhere. You know, I hear what you're saying about the ball needing, you know, he's like, play it quicker. But as a goalkeeper, you need to go to the ball. Or even as a player, you don't wait for the ball to come to you. Unless the ball zinged at you at pace, you've got to make sure you close down that space between the ball. You don't just wait for the ball to roll to you. You've got to get out to it quickly.
Yeah. The one thing I say about Ray though, he's very much a body shape goalkeeper, and by that I mean that if the player's at left back and he's going to pass it, he's almost standing on the half turn to receive and play, because he's almost like a defensive outfield player the way he is. Whereas it would have been hard for him to see a slow ball and turn back towards it, and then but I almost wanted him to run to that ball and left foot just launch it out into touch.
Get shot of it, you know, charged down by you know, someone who's by a lethal striker, you know, you just get shot of it. But yeah, I was waiting for the clanger, but it never materialized, thankfully. You know, and I do think that we got away with a bit there, you know, because on another day he could have easily conceded a couple of goals there, you know, with the way that he was playing in that first half. But you know, as it was, you know, we got to half time 0-0.
Yeah, I think getting into half time, I was almost like, okay, let's get to half time. We're playing pretty shit. There's not a great deal going on here. But if we're 0-0 at half time, at least we haven't done that usual thing where we're 2-0 down after 30 minutes or whatever. And then at least we can kind of reset, get the players into the dressing room, and then kind of go from there. And but yeah, the second half really was kind of a bit of a flurry at the start of the half, a little bit more intent, a bit more front foot. I think Martinelli, you know, we'll talk about him now, I guess, but you know, he came on at half time for Trossard. Interesting one for me because I was really happy to see him on. I haven't seen anything to suggest that he's got a problem, but when you look at, well, I'm more worried. I mean, again, being a worrywart that I am, but I'm more concerned that maybe Trossard felt something, because I've never seen Arteta, very rarely, like he's known as a manager to make his substitutions relatively late in game. Yeah. So for him to make especially bringing a player who hasn't played like Martinelli, he was very, very rusty, you know, coming on. I was quite surprised to see it happen. So my gut instinct was saying, well, maybe there's some kind of muscular problem where he's had some kind of knock potentially. I mean, obviously we don't know. But I think it was whether it was an intended substitution or one that was forced onto him. I think Martinelli did change how we played. I think the problem with Arsenal sometimes that if you have both Saka and Martinelli out, you lose so much in terms of direct running.
Well, this is it.
Penetration. I mean, I love Trossard. I love the fact as well that he's very different to Martinelli, but he's not going to kind of be that guy to pick up the ball and drive at you and get your defenders running back towards their own goal. And I felt the first 5-10 minutes of the second half, he made Kyle Walker look a bit shaky at times, and Kyle Walker's a very athletic, fast, probably the fastest fullback still in European football, even in his early to mid 30s. So what was your thought on that one?
Yeah, I think Martinelli was exactly what we needed, because we offered up nothing in the first half. It's like what I said at the beginning. I looked at the front three and I thought Jesus out wide, Nketiah at the middle with Trossard. I just thought it just doesn't click. It just doesn't work. I just couldn't see it, and it played out like that. And with Martinelli coming on, as much as I like Trossard, I think Martinelli was exactly what we needed. That bit of directness, that bit of purpose. He gets on the ball and he wants to make things happen and he wants to drive forward. There's none of this sort of, I'll play it backwards. He always wants to move forward with the ball and make things happen. And I mean, already within the first few minutes of him coming on, he already caused City more problems than we did in the entire first half. And it was a joy to see. I mean, I was expecting to be rusty, and he didn't look rusty at all. He looked really sharp and on it. And I just thought, hang on a minute, you're not meant to be back for another week or so. It's unbelievable how you're here, doing what you're doing.
A lot of people were quite surprised that he came back so quickly. But I remember when I saw him go off, he wasn't exactly hobbling off. He was holding his hamstring, but to me, it didn't look like a serious hamstring strain. So a lot of people saying, he was due to come back after the international break. But I remember when he did get taken off, it wasn't like he was walking off really, really struggling to do so. So I actually expected him to come back roughly around now. I wasn't surprised to see him. I think it's when you don't see him on all the training video stuff on social before, ahead of the game. Obviously, Arsenal are probably trying to do that as a tactical ploy against City. You're probably trying to get a few clues on who's fit, who's not. He didn't appear in any of that, so I reckon he would have been in training for most of the week. I would have thought, leading up to this game. But yeah, I agree. He looked. I was pleasantly surprised at how sort of sharp and up for he was, and he kind of had City on the back foot. Two on one, freeing up. I noticed Zinchenko looked a bit brighter. He was kind of going forward and combining with him on that left wing. You had, he put that cross into the far post that just evaded Jesus, and he played a role in the shot by Odegaard 5 minutes in, from the corner. So yeah, it was good. It was good to see him back on. But then after that sort of initial flurry, it seemed to sort of
revert to type. He got very cagey. Didn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's on us either. I wouldn't say it's necessarily an Arsenal thing. I think City also the game was being played at a walking pace. To be honest, it was really kind of disappointing to see. A lot gets made in the lead up to the game, but yeah.
Both teams just set out that all they wanted to do was not lose the game. There was no sort of intent to try and go forward and win the game. It was like, well, whatever we do, we just can't lose. That kind of seemed to be the message, and that played into the players' way of playing. They were just very sort of, oh crap, we can't make any mistakes. They were just they played with fear, and I hate seeing that. I remember, was it a couple of years ago, we played them on New Year's Day at the Emirates, and we went hell for leather for them. This is early on in the project. Finding our feet, and we really gave them a game, and we played with the as Wenger would say, we played with the handbrake off. And we really went for it. And okay, we lost on the day. I remember, I think it was like a last-minute goal from City to sort of nick the game. But the performance on the day was really, it was like, oh, well done. We'd really given them a game and gone for it. But this was, I mean, maybe I'm being naive. This is what we needed. We needed this sort of like to eke out this sort of 1-0 scraped by win, just to get the points on the board and get the psychological boost that it's given us,
Yeah, I think in weeks to come, people aren't going to be sitting there go, oh, how did we play in that game? They're just going to.
Yeah.
Oh, the great thing is we're going to be able to look. The longer the time passes, we'll be able to look back and go, we beat City this season. We've actually done it finally in the league in a game that means something. That's not the Community Shield. So I think that's kind of key. But we saw. I looked at City's bench. They brought on Doku, Stones, and Nunes.
Yeah, they had options, didn't they? The
depth. It's like, oh my
scary.
good grief.
It's scary.
But then look at our substitutions. We had Tomiyasu, Havertz, and Partey coming on with 20 minutes to go, and I have to say, obviously they played their role. I did certainly. If someone said what would the winning goal look like, it wouldn't be like that. But I thought Partey looked quite good and assured on the ball. One thing I love about him that I think we've missed in recent weeks is someone who can play the ball vertically up the pitch as opposed to just going backwards and sideways. So it was good to see him coming back, and I think the game state kind of, I think with Jorginho on a booking, it was kind of a tough game to come into, but yeah, it was good to bring him on, and I think Zinchenko is not the finest. I think Jeremy Doku spent a lot of time sort of sitting on the pitch, sort of asking for free kicks today, but whenever I've seen him before, he looks almost like a Saka clone, like a guy that can kind of come inside onto his left foot, go outside on his right foot, can go either way, looks like a real handful. And to be honest, the idea of Zinchenko, who's a more attacking player, having to face that kind of quality in the final 20-25 minutes or so was tough. So I actually felt that the substitution for Tomiyasu, a bit more defensively minded. I mean, we'll get to him in a minute because it was amazing how the goal kind of came around. But what we sort of thought on City subs, and then how we sort of responded to those tactically, and what you kind of. I was also quite happy to see Kai Havertz coming on as a false nine for some reason. I kind of thought he played there in the Community Shield. Maybe he's going to have to tap into his recency in his mind around how he played pretty well in the Community Shield, and also he's not then able to make a Horlicks of it in the middle of the pitch by, cocking it up in the middle.
So the sub. I mean, I love the subs. I really didn't mind Nketiah going off. Again, he's tried his best. He's run himself into the ground, but he's had little to no influence on the game. And so Havertz coming on, playing the false nine. I really don't mind if it's like the 75th minute and they're sort of trying to. Sort of, because at that point I think they just wanted to make sure they didn't lose. The worst case scenario is that you concede, like City did, in that sort of last period of time, and then you're trying to chase the game. But by bringing Havertz on, they offered up and Partey as well. It was a bit more physicality to the game as well. I like that approach from Arteta. He tried to counteract, because you look the subs that City brought on, they were okay. Take John Stones out of it, but. Actually, John Stones as well. They're very technical, the players that they brought on. And I thought it just shows the depth that they've got on their bench, that they can bring these players on. And, this is, without Martinelli and Saka in the lineup, I thought we're going to suffer. But I think we did really well, and we matched them man for man. Doku, as you say, he's a bit of a handful. Really unpredictable player. And he offered something to City that they hadn't had for the majority of the game. So it was good to see us, nail down these players and go man to man with them and, shut them out. Loved seeing Thomas Partey come back. That midfield three is what we've been calling out for. Partey, Rice and Ødegaard. I'd love to see that after the international break, maybe when we go to the bridge, that three-man midfield, I think, can really put us in good stead going forward. And the Tommy change, that seems to be a regular change now. He gets to like the 70th minute or so. If we're winning a game, he likes to see it out and bring Tomiyasu in, be a bit more defensive across the back line. It really works. It works really well. I mean, it's very much a carbon copy of what City do, but we'll gloss over that. But encouraging changes. It was good to see us have that those players to bring off the bench, and I loved seeing some of these players come back from injury. It was good, about time.
Yeah. I mean, let's. I mean, it's good to see Tomiyasu staying fit as well. I think he's been quite good recently. He's been pretty understated.
Yeah, really
yeah,
good.
and I think he's a very understated player, very calm, and it's good to see him get a run of games going now. And let's hope Partey. I can't say I'm confident, but let's hope he can not break down with a muscle injury anytime soon. And I think Martinelli now. I'm hoping he doesn't get caught up with Brazil, but I assume now he's played, he probably will. But I almost wish he could stay.
He doesn't start, does he, for Brazil, Martinelli? Does he?
I know, but with all the travel and all the rest of it, I'd rather him just stay in the UK and get some more training. But now he's played and scored the winner in this game. I think he'll probably go away to South America, frustratingly. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a regular starter, but I think the travel, the jet lag, and all the stuffing around is probably it's a bit of a heavy lift, isn't it? But 3 minutes from time, the magic happened, and probably one of the strangest goals I've ever seen. The build up,
very odd, wasn't it? Very weird. I just remember Nathan Ake's face. Just the replay smacking his face and then going in off. It was just, very weird. I mean, the build-up. Talk me through it, because I can't remember off the top of my head now. I was so caught up in the elation of it, and then I saw the replay, and I was just, it's just weird.
Well, the thing that I noticed is something that we were not doing the entire game is showing a little bit of bravery, taking a bit of a calculated risk, not being stupid, but just taking I think Tomiyasu, he sort of looks around, he sees that no one's around him, and he goes on a little bit of a run into midfield, and then he realised no one's on him, and he keeps his run going and run going and run going. Thomas Partey, again, I talk about his ability to play vertically through the lines, but clips the ball up into the box, headed down by, the Japanese Andy Carroll, Tomiyasu. Headed.
That's a bit of a stretch, mate.
Nods it down to Kai Havertz, who, and let's be honest, Kai Havertz does have good feet. He shows a bit of strength to hold the ball up and takes a good touch, and then lays it off to Martinelli, who, let's face it, he's going for that far corner that he seems to hit the top bins in. Yeah, I think. I mean, he caught it. He caught it well, but I don't think it's troubling the keeper. And then obviously cannons off Ake's head, and then wrong foots Edison and goes into the net. But strange guy. I certainly did not see a Thomas Partey, Tomiyasu, Havertz sort of combo unlocking the door. But I have to say, like I say, it was nice to see Tomiyasu take a little bit more, show a bit of bravery, and kind of go, no, I'm not going to play within this structured, stale sort of attacking stuff that we're doing at the moment. I'm going to go on a bit of a run. I'm going to cause a little bit of havoc and a little bit of, because Man City and Arsenal are such well coached teams in terms of the patterns of play and the structure, that I can imagine almost the City players going, hang on a minute, what the hell is he doing jogging up into the box here? And it obviously worked a treat. I mean, we got lucky with the deflection, but it was good to see. When I saw him in that position, I thought, wow, what are you doing there? But I was thinking, well, City are not really offering much down the other end. We may as well come and have a bit of a go. And none of the Arsenal players were really seemed prepared to actually do that. And, a long ball into the box from Partey probably isn't in the Arteta coaching manual either, but it was nice to see, again, a bit more of just not a launch by any stage, but like a nice clipped high ball into the box. It was there to be done, and away we go.
Fabulous. And then we all go crazy, and then we all start dreaming of winning the league.
And then immediately the anxiety floods in. We've actually scored, and there's only 3 minutes left.
Well, this is it. And the other thing, I think, after the goal had gone in, the one thing I was really impressed with was the game management then, and closing out the game. And Havertz, to his credit, he played a big part in that as well. It was very clever play. I mean, the way that they just slowed it down, they weren't taking any unnecessary risks. I just thought, this is clever. This is something I've not really seen that much of from Arsenal before, because you're just expecting City to go up the other end. Haaland gets on the end of something. He hasn't been in the game at all, and then he buries in an equaliser. But I was extremely impressed.
Mm.
You know, those last, what, say like 6 or 7 minutes after the goal, including the injury time, the way that we closed it out, I thought that was very professional, way of closing things out. And these are the games, I think, at the end of the season that are going to count. I don't want to talk about the Fulham game or the Spurs game because they're painful memories. But, City now, they've shown a bit of a softness to them. They've lost 2 league games on the bounce. Well, 3 domestic games on the bounce they've lost now. And, maybe there's a bit of a hangover from the treble. I'm going to jump on the narrative that's been bounded around in media, but it's possible. We've put ourselves in the mix, and I think it was desperately needed, this result, desperately.
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much credit on the team cheating bastards like Man City, but this does feel like more than just 3 points.
It's a seminal moment. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I want Arsenal now to, when they're in their kind of lowest lows in this season, if we're going for a bit of a sticky spell, to be able to call back on this and go,
yeah,
actually, you know what? Because this game to me was worth more than 3 points, because it shows the players that we can nullify Haaland, give him basically zero. I'd love to know how many touches he's had, but he wasn't even involved in the game. Nullified Doku when he came on. Alvarez hardly got a kick. Rico Lewis in the middle there, absolutely nothing to offer. And I want the players to kind of take a bit of credit from that, and and know that if they do defend like this, then they give themselves a platform. And other teams will be easy to break down than Man City as well. So if we defend like we did today, then we'll be in a good position. So to me, this definitely feels like more than 3 points. It's all well and good Tottenham stumbling past Luton yesterday, but we can at least call back and say, well, we've beaten Man United, we've beaten Man City now, and suddenly we're adding a few scalps to our belt. And we need to make sure we continue that at Stamford Bridge. I mean, they've had a big result yesterday, but
yeah, but I'm not reading too much into. I mean, they're a shambles of a club right now. I mean, the Tottenham thing. All right, I know that we're at the top of we're at the summit with those guys at the moment, but I'm expecting Tottenham to fade away. I'm not going to Tottenham bash here, but you look at their depth of their squad. They're bringing on players like Oliver Skip. Their depth isn't there. For Tottenham, they've got Richarlison as their number 9, who can't hit a barn door. They're relying heavily on Son to get their goal output, and they just don't have the depth. Yes, they've strung together some impressive results, and but then the guys on Sky said that Tottenham had played all of the bottom 3 clubs so far, and Arsenal haven't actually played any of the bottom 3 teams yet. We've still got the same amount of points as them. And you and I both know that Arsenal haven't really started to play well yet we've still managed to amass 20 points out of 8 games, and we're right in the mix. And so I do think that we're going to probably be City's closest challengers to the title. I mean, I'm absolutely buzzing after this result. To get this monkey off the back was brilliant. It's incredible feeling. I mean, Saliba, Gabriel, standout performers for me at the back. Incredible defensive performance. Rice as well, shielding them. I think he was brilliant in the second half. Amazing.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, like I say, good to get that monkey off the back. We need to make sure you're always going to get games like the Fulham game and things like that in a season, but this feels like 3 points extra than that we wouldn't have had last season. So, and the goal difference. I mean, Tottenham are only at the top now on goals scored. We've got the same goal difference as them. We've only got 1 goal worse goal difference than City. So I think it's looking good. I mean, what I will say is that we will need to sort of go through the gears a bit more than we're doing. I mean, you could say we're playing bad, and if you can beat City, you can beat anyone. I kind of get that, but we've got the next game. We've got Chelsea away, Sheffield United at home in the league, and then we've got to go to St James's Park. So we've got we've still got some toughish games coming up. We've got to go to Sevilla as well. So
West
Chelsea,
Ham,
Sevilla, Sheffield United, and Newcastle. The next game, West Ham will be thrown in there as well in the Carabao.
Yeah.
So the games we're in still quite a tough run of fixtures, I would say. But yeah, it's good to obviously see us sort of picking up points and going for it. But yeah, it's just a relief to get that off our backs after so long. But yeah, any final thoughts before we move on to bold predictions?
I'm glad that it's the international break. I've got to be honest, because the squad was looking a bit thin, and injuries were starting to rack up a little bit. I think I pray that Saka isn't involved with England. I'm hoping that Arteta has had a conversation with Southgate and gone, look, he's at his limit. We need to give him a bit of a rest, so we can get a couple of weeks under his belt. I hope that Martinelli's not involved. I hope that Partey's not really involved, but we'll have to see. It's come at the right time. We've managed to beat City. Now we go into the international break. We're up there. We're involved. We haven't lost yet in the league, which is brilliant. So I'm really feeling positive, and yet we still haven't played what I would consider well yet, apart from like maybe the PSV game. I haven't really seen us smash somebody. I mean, I know we beat Bournemouth 4-0, but it just didn't. It was good. It was a resounding win, but the performance, I just don't think we got out of third gear with them.
No, I mean Bournemouth look a really bad side. It's really hard to know who's going to go down at the moment. I feel like there's 5 really terrible sides so far, and it does make you think that normally you got 2 really bad ones, and then the last one can come of maybe a team that gets unlucky, gets dragged into it. But I look at Burnley, I look at Bournemouth when they played against us. Obviously Luton, that pretty much doomed already. There are some really poor sides in this Premier League this year towards the bottom, if you ask me. But that's not for us to worry about.
Yeah. We've got high
onwards or upwards from there. Yeah, exactly.
So,
right.
Bold predictions. This is one that I don't care that I got wrong.
Yeah, same as me. You had a draw with a goal involvement from Jesus. I had Arsenal to lose, but not Bournemouth.
Shame.
I know, but again, I was reverse psychologicalizing for the players to come good.
Against Chelsea, are you?
No, I'm actually going to Arsenal to win with a clean sheet. I think the way we defended today, Chelsea, I know they scored 4 yesterday, but they're a team that hasn't found goals easy to come by this season. And I think the way we defended today was really good, and I think the way we defend away from home is really good as well. So I can't see them scoring, to be honest. I can't see us scoring a hatful in most games, but I can see us winning 1-0, 2-0, something like that. Where are you at?
I can see us winning. I really can, because I don't think Chelsea are the team. On paper you go, Arsenal, Chelsea, it's a big game, but I just think Chelsea are a mid-table team right now. I just don't see anything from them. They're really struggling for any sort of form of identity. What am I going to say? I'm going to say an Arsenal win. And I reckon we will score at least 2 goals. Okay.
I love that.
At least 2 goals. I'm tempted to say 3, but, I'm not going to go crazy.
Win with at least 2 goals scored. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. That is what I want to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been a nice little Sunday, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's been really good. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, Liverpool dropped points as well. They're looking a little bit, unsure of themselves. I definitely think, it's between us, City, maybe Liverpool. I can't see anybody else really getting involved in the mix. Can you?
No, I mean, well, in terms of the title, no, absolutely not. I found Brighton quite an interesting thing in the last few weeks, because they went and got stuffed against Aston Villa, but then today You know,
It's
look
led
like
to
they play quite well. Yeah, they've gone from being a really steady team that sort of win a lot of games to being quite volatile, where they sort of get thumped one week and then next week they're, you know, playing someone off the park who's a top side. So yeah, funny. In terms of the title, I mean, you know, again, all this Tottenham talk,
it's not gonna materialize. It just won't materialize. They will fade away after Christmas. They may stick around for a bit up until Christmas, but I can't see it. I just can't see
yeah.
them being involved because I just don't think they've got the squad for it. You know, it's like us a few years ago. We just didn't have the players to sort of to manage to maintain the challenge. I just don't see it.
No. Well, because people keep saying, oh, you know, wait, you know, we're only just started the season. We are kind of almost at a quarter of all the games gone. But we're only 8 games in, and again, my gut tells me with them that, I mean, they seem to have recruited quite well. They seem to have did what we did a few years ago, where they're not signing names, but they're getting kind of players and they can kind of do a job and fit into a system. I was really convinced, though, I have to say, when you know, when they got the manager in but didn't have a director of football in, they were just recruiting players. All right, that doesn't feel very joined up, but they seem to have landed on their feet in terms of the players they brought in. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they've got no real depth.
I mean,
yeah, they got a decent spine of a team, I would say, but yeah, but not certainly not to win the league. I'm still unsure whether, unless I see us starting to put some wins together and play actually some good football that looks really dominant. I still would put City as the favourites even now, to be honest. But
there's probably not much between us and City after today's result. I'd say if City had today, I'd say it's not going to happen because it would have been a hammer blow psychologically as well for the players. But yeah, I mean, looking at Tottenham. I mean, I'm just looking at some of their play. You know, their bench for the game against Luton. You know, Skip, Gill, Lo Celso, you know, Emerson Royale, Eric Dyer. You know, it's not. It doesn't scream. You know, oh, title challenge. It doesn't
scream elite. I mean, I think our team is quality, and I think we've got good depth as well. I think it'll be between us and City ultimately. But yeah, but I think what we've done now is we've sowed a bit of a seed of doubt in City's mind, because they're at least going to be able to, you know, it'll be obviously a very tough game when we have to go there, but at least we can go there and say, right, we've got a bit of a boost on you now. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Indeed.
Yeah, we had to do it. I mean, I know it's only 6 points at the end of the day that these 2 fixtures count for, but I think in terms of the belief that it gives the squad and the players and everyone kind of connected with the club. I mean, to be honest, it probably was a 0-0 game. But you know, the fact we've been able to steal that at the end there, and we did defend well today. We were very solid. So yeah, great, very happy man tonight.
Very happy. I think that wraps it up, doesn't it, for this week?
I think it does. Yeah, and thanks to everyone for tuning in as ever. It's been obviously great to enjoy this all with you after such a great Sunday afternoon's business at the Emirates. And yeah, we'll join you all again after the international break, and time to put our feet up, I guess, and kind of hope our players don't get banjoed by injuries, and and then we use this as a nice springboard to go on from there.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Remember to hit like, subscribe, comment, and all that stuff, and then we'll see you on the next one.
See you soon, everyone. Take care for now.
Bye.